My non-biblical reading for this morning is from a book by Joyce Rupp called Fly While You Still Have Wings. It was written about 14 years after her mother died. And this book is about the life lessons that she learned from her mother about living and aging and approaching death. This is the end of the preface. None of us knows how our final stage of life will affect us until we experience it. We do know that we want to live life with as much quality and verve as possible, for as long as we can. My mother's motto in her last decade was, "Fly while you still have wings." She intentionally lived with enthusiasm and gratitude. Then there came a time when those strong wings were not so sturdy anymore. She initially met this reality with fierce resistance. Eventually, she leaned into what could not be changed, doing so with the wisdom of one who believes old age and death can be met with a faith-filled acceptance and confident serenity. This I learned from my resilient mother.
Reading from the book of Ecclesiastes. But then it finally dawned on me how good, how lovely it is to eat and drink and find satisfaction in everything we do under the sun during the few days of life God gives us. To embrace everything that comes to us, regardless of how much wealth or possessions God gives us. We're also given the ability to find joy in what we have, to accept whatever happens to us, and find fulfillment in our work. This is God's gift to us. If we embrace whatever comes, we never need to brood over the shortness of life, for God will keep our hearts filled with joy.
Would you pray with me? Gracious God, as we talk about commitments this week, and making a commitment to life, breathe your life into us, that we might be filled in this moment, that we might concentrate just on being present now, letting go of all of the worries and concerns that we have, being filled with the energy and the beauty of life in this world. And may the words of my mouth and the meditations of each of our hearts be filled with your wisdom and your grace. Amen. So truly, I love the scripture that Marilyn just read. It's a call to be committed to life and living life in every moment at every time, regardless of what happens. Be the worst day we're having, but we're still breathing and we're still alive and there's still flowers and there's still love and there's still hope. And to try and remember that and hold on to that during the difficult times can be tough. But Ecclesiastes calls us to it again and again. It says, embrace everything that comes to us. Regardless of how much wealth or possessions God gives us, we're also given the ability to find joy. Joy that's a choice. Every day, literally every day, I remind myself that life is good, that life is precious, that we need to find joy in even the smallest, littlest things. I try to remind myself not to get caught up brooding, as Ecclesiastes says, over all of the stuff in life, the to-do lists and the worries about my kids, or what is it around the house that needs to be taken care of, and what do for gosh sakes, the eternal question, what am I making for dinner tonight? How many times in my life have I asked that question, and how many will I ask that question times? Even thinking about that is depressing. So to focus on the joy of, I have food to eat, and I have the ability to cook, and I have a beautiful kitchen to do it in. to try and reshape some of those things and to find joy in the moment is the challenge and the commitment to life that we're called to make by Ecclesiastes. Every day, literally, when I walk the dog, I can get halfway through a walk, honestly, before I remember to take a deep breath and breathe in the amazing air that's outside. And to remember to feel the breeze on my skin. No matter how cold it is, I'm out in it and I can feel it. To recognize the majesty and the beauty in nature, whether it's 95 or minus 20, it's still there for me to enjoy. If I don't get caught up grousing and brooding about it. You know, and he mentions the shortness of life, not to get caught up brooding about the shortness of life. Well, while you're brooding about it, it's going on. And yet, how many of us have, you know, parents especially, every parent I think I've heard say, gosh, the kids grow up so fast. You know, all of a sudden they're going off to camp, or they're turning into teenagers, or they're graduating, or they're getting married, or they're having kids. And we're like, where did time go? My poor dad's got to be scared. I'm turning 55 this year. Where did time go? We can't worry about the time that passes, because we worry about it, we lose it. We lose the enjoyment of it. And so to be present with our one precious life and the precious moments that we have is the commitment that we make over and over and over again, every single day, to enjoy it. Earlier I guess last November, December, Julie was trying to figure out what she wanted to do with the rest of her life. And trying to decide if she should go back to school or not. And honestly, the big question was, well, can we afford for her to take a year and a half off? And what would that look like? Because, you know, losing her corporate salary was not easy. And so did she have to get a job? Could she go back to school? And I finally said, you know, we're gonna be fine. Life might be a little tight. We might not be able to do everything we want to do and have everything we want to do, but we have each other, and we have our family, and we have our community, and we have our beautiful house, and we have our yard. And if I only get to travel to my backyard for the rest of my life, I can be happy. Because it's my choice if I'm going to be happy. You get one chance to realize your dream. The dream since she was, you know, in high school of becoming an accountant. And so now she has the opportunity, it would not be my dream, but it's her dream. And to have the ability, that opportunity to live that dream is making a commitment to life, to grab hold of it while we have the opportunity to do that. That's what the Joyce Rupp passage about her mom was about, to fly while you still have wings. This is Julie's chance to fly while she still has wings, to realize that. But we all have that opportunity almost every day to even fly in little ways. You know, Ecclesiastes says it doesn't matter how many wealth or how many possessions you have. It's about your attitude. It's about how you're approaching life. And it's not just a lesson in old age. It's a lesson for every age, for every day. What will we do with this wild and precious life that is ours here today? So that's what I want you today to make a renewed commitment to live life. Every moment, even if it's doing the dishes. You know, you have the ability to do the dishes. How amazing is that? So, what does it take? What are the qualities it takes to actually live fully into our lives? There's a little drawing that Mary Engelbert made. I don't know if you're familiar with her. She does all the little kids. She did a little girl who was standing at a crossroads, holding her like hobo pack over her shoulder, right? You know, with the little bandana tied up on the stick. And the crossroads, there are two signs, and one direction says, your life, and the other direction says, not an option anymore. Your life, no longer an option. And you're standing there going, but that's the way I want to go. I want to go to that which is no longer an option. We all do that. We all look at the past and we think about our relationships and we think about our jobs and we think about, what we had or the opportunities we missed. And we're like, but I still want to go that way. But it's no longer an option. So what does it take to stop standing there at the crossroads looking at those two signs and actually go fully, enthusiastically onto the path that is your life? A single step. Faith in yourself and in the universe and in life. Mike? Being optimistic. Absolutely. Glass half full. Which is also an attitude you have to work on. What else does it take to take that first step? That second step? Courage. Absolutely. And courage is not about not having fear, right? It's about going forward despite your fears. So we need to be fearless. Curious, maybe. Determined. Crazy. Possible. We have to be willing to risk. Right, Robin, what was your quote about a boat?
Oh, a boat is made to sail. If you wanted to be safe, you'd stay in the harbor.
Yeah, so a boat's safe in the harbor, but that's not what it's made for.
Right.
Right? Same with our lives. We are made to enjoy everything that's out there. If we sit on our sofas and watch TV, that ain't what we're made for. And when we get to the end of our lives, that's not what we want to see when we look back. Yeah, I didn't go do that. I just sat at home and watched TV. Why? Embrace life. So, what are the things that hold us back? Fear. Fear of what? The unknown. Rejection. Failure. Other people's opinions. Yeah, so let me tell you a story about my friend Chris. Because sometimes that one person's opinion can completely derail you. She said when she was in high school, she wanted to be a marine biologist. This was her dream. And her dad looked at her and went, well, what do you want to do that for? And she said that was effectively the end of that dream. 40 years later, she still remembers that moment. And her advice was, make a commitment not to be that person. And make a commitment not to be derailed by that person. So let me tell you a story about, Rachel Raymond tells a story about her when her mother turned 80. When her mother turned 80, all she wanted for her birthday was to climb to the top of the Statue of Liberty. Because she could remember being 5 years old and sailing in on a ship from Russia and coming into the harbor and seeing Lady Liberty. And she'd lived in New York all of her life, and she'd never climbed to the top of it. So her daughter could have been the wet blanket, could have been that person who said, what do you want to do that for? But her daughter kind of took a deep breath and went, okay, this is what Mom wants. Never mind that she has a severe heart condition. Never mind that there are 342 steps to the top. We can do this. 3-4 steps at a time. Stopping. Setting aside all day, taking the nitroglycerin along. And so they did. It took 6 hours for them to climb to the top of the Statue of Liberty. Fly while you still have wings. A week ago, Julie and I met a woman whom I'm guessing to be in her 70s. But she mentioned a husband who was 96. So I'm thinking even if she was 20 years younger, she's still like 76. But she was talking about the ice skating competition she was in the following week. Gotta be at least, 70-something. And still ice skating and competing. I was in awe. Fly while you still have wings. Grasp every moment. You know, Ludwig van Beethoven was probably, one of the greatest, I don't know how you feel about Beethoven, but one of the greatest composers ever. A child genius like you rarely see in the world. But he also had a health condition that is just cataclysmic for a musician. He was going deaf. At the age of 31, he was talking to his friends about how terrifically frightened he was of losing his hearing. That he had this music pulsing through him, but he couldn't, he was getting hung up because of the loss, the slow deterioration of his hearing, and he couldn't figure out how to get it all out of him, and he was getting depressed. And so he took some time off and he went to a small town in Austria for about a year. Thought about suicide. But something happened over the course of that year. And when he came back, he wrote a letter to his brothers. And in that letter, he talked about how hard his condition was and how difficult it was for him to think about slowly losing his ability to hear, because he had so much in him that wanted to come out, and how it was just weighing on him, this crushing weight. And yet, by the end of that letter, he had made a commitment to overcome as best as he could, to persevere, to keep creating music as long as he possibly could, as long as time and will allowed. He never sent that letter. It wasn't found until 20 years later, after his death at age 52. But the Ninth Symphony, which is probably the most played symphony in the world, and has, the famous Ode to Joy at the end of it, was written when he was almost completely deaf. Fly while you still have wings. Don't give up. Keep doing what you can do as long as you can do. And then, as Joyce Rupp's mom says, when life changes, because things are going to change, to work on accepting with grace and with serenity, and to still enjoy every little moment. You don't have to do great things to enjoy life. The commitment I'm asking for today is not to start ice skating or to climb to the top of the Statue of Liberty or to compose a symphony. That's not what I'm asking you. It doesn't take terrible amounts of money or time or anything to just hear the song of a bird and be grateful that you can hear. To look at a beautiful flower and see the intricacy there and be grateful that you can smell it and you can see it. To feel the sunshine in your face and be grateful that we're out here in this beautiful place. Just the little things, every day, every moment, I'm asking us to pay attention to make a commitment to live that life fully and completely. And it's a commitment we have to make over and over and over again, because we forget and we get caught up. I do it just as much as everybody else. So I want to invite the band to come on up, and I want to tell you one more song. I want to tell you one more story, and then we're going to sing a song, which we learned on Thursday. So I'm flying, but I think my wings might be clipped. So I have some of you know my friend Glennon. She actually officiated at our wedding. But she has a couple of grandkids. She's retired now. She has a couple of grandkids, and they're little. So she watches them a couple times a week. Come on in, sit down, Nolan. And they were having lunch one day, sitting around the kitchen table, and they were playing Disney music in the background. And one particular song came on, and her little granddaughter said, "I want to dance." And so they all set lunch aside, and they got up and danced. That's a commitment to life. Not to go, "Oh no, honey, we'll wait until you need to finish your lunch first." Why? Get up and dance. So make a commitment to life. I hope you dance. Promise me that you'll give faith a fighting chance. And when you get the choice, sit it out or dance. Hope you dance. I hope you dance. Hope you never fear those mountains in the distance. Never settle for the path of least resistance. Living might mean taking chances, but they're worth taking. Loving might be a mistake, but it's worth making. Don't let some helmet heart leave you bitter. When you come close to settling out, reconsider. Give the heavens above more than just a passing glance. And when you get the choice to sit it out or dance, feel free to dance. Run and dance. I hope you dance. I hope you dance. I hope you dance. I hope you still feel small when you stand beside the ocean. Whenever one door closes, I hope one door opens. Promise me that you'll give faith a fighting chance. And when you get the choice to sit it out or dance, dance. I hope you You realize that was a choice to dance and none of you stood up. Except for Shirley. Shirley gets the gold star. So apparently you learned nothing
Could
from
have
my
been a
sermon.
slow dance.
Make a commitment to life. Get up and dance. Or at least stand up for our last song. After Marilyn blesses the offering. You can stand up while she's blessing. It's